Hello again, students. Welcome to today's new course. Remember, we're in the cell biology course in stage 2, and today's topic is going to be the ultrastructure of cells. Today, teaching with us is Mr. Derek.
Hello, guys. I hope you enjoy this class.
And of course, me. Welcome again. Are you excited for a fun new learning session? First of all, let's start with some questions. I want you to answer the questions down below in the comment section. We are going to be reading all of your answers, and remember that these comments count as your participation and attendance for today's class. Feel free to pause the video whenever you want so that you can have time to type your answers. So first of all, have you ever used a microscope? And if so, what have you have seen in this microscope? I think microscopes are very common in middle school biology practices, so I wouldn't be too surprised if you have already used one. Next question, what are microscopes used for? What do you think they are used for? The third question is, what microorganisms do you know? And the last question is, why is it important to study microorganisms, more specifically its parts? This last question is more subjective, so there won't be any wrong answers. Let's start with the first part of today's topic, which is prokaryotic cell structure. Some of the organisms that include the prokaryotic cell structure are the bacteria and the archaea. The bacteria are these guys right here, and the archaea are more like these guys down below. So first of all, what we need to know is that prokaryotes have a simple cell structure without any compartments. Some characteristics of these cells are that DNA is concentrated in a non-membrane enclosed region. These prokaryotic cells have no true nucleus or membrane-bound organelles. They are simpler in structure than eukaryotic cells, and you're going to notice that later on when we see the cell structure of the eukaryotes. So, the prokaryote organelles. These are the cell wall, which is a rigid structure outside the plasma membrane. Then the plasma membrane, which is a membrane enclosing cytoplasm. This membrane, controls what enters and exits the cell. The nucleoid is a condensed area of DNA within the cell. The flagella provides means of movement around any organism that this prokaryote move around. The cytoplasm is the interior of the cell. It contains the organelles and the DNA. The ribosomes produce proteins. And finally, the pili are hair-like structures on the outside of the cell that are used for movement. In this next slide, we're going to see more clearly what I'm talking about. So, as I already said, the chromosomes are right here within the cell. The pili are outside. It's all these hair-like, the hair-like structure that helps with movement. The ribosomes are these blue things that are all around the cell. The prokaryotic flagellum it's this kind of tail that helps the cell move around. And the cytoplasm, which is all around, also it's all around the cell. The plasma membrane, which is all of these interior yellowish cape. And finally, the cell wall, which is more rigid in structure. Okay, guys, so let's continue by seeing by which process these prokaryotic cells reproduce. So this process is called binary fission, and it is used for asexual reproduction. First of all, the single circular chromosome is replicated. It is replicated. So you see here now there's two chromosomes. And they move to opposite ends of the cell. As you see here, they are moving to the opposite ends. Then they divide. The division of the cytoplasm quickly follows in this process. And finally, there are two new daughter cells that contain one copy of the chromosome, so they are genetically identical. Okay, so we're going to see an animation that actually portrays how cells divide in real life. As you can see, there are a lot of cells reproducing one by one. There are two, now there's four, and so on. They are going to continue to grow exponentially. So now, let's continue with the eukaryotic cell structure. Eukaryotic cells make up almost every living thing except archaea and bacteria. So from turtles to cows to plants that cows eat, octopuses, octopi, birds, and beautiful flowers. So what we need to know is that eukaryotes have a compartmentalized cell structure, unlike the prokaryotes. Some characteristics of this cell are the DNA is contained within the membrane-bound nucleus. This type of cell have membrane-bound organelles. This includes both plants and animals, and their size is 10 to 100 microns. They're larger than prokaryotes. Some of the organelles are the lysosome, the nucleus, the nucleolus, the endoplasmic reticulum, the Golgi apparatus, the ribosome, and the mitochondria. So all of these definitions, you can write it down on your notebook because they are important for the exam. So first of all, the lysosome, it contains the enzymes that digest macromolecules. Continuing the nucleus is what holds cell DNA and maintains cell functions. The nucleolus is a portion of the nucleus that produces the ribosomes. The endoplasmic reticulum secretes proteins, and it grows by adding membrane proteins. The Golgi apparatus are products of the endoplasmic reticulum, modified, stored, and moved to other areas of cell or exported outside the cell. The ribosomes are made of ribosomal RNA that produce proteins. And finally, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, and it is the site of cellular respiration and what generates most of the chemical energy needed for the biochemical processes. Okay, guys, so let's try to label each of the organelles in this diagram. So, first of all, this pinkish and purple structure in the center is, can you guess it? It is the nucleus. Okay, if you guessed it right, congratulations. Then, this yellow thing surrounding the nucleus, what do you think it is? Well, it is the endoplasmic reticulum. Now let's go over here. So this is pointing at like everything around within the cell, and it is the cytoplasm. Now let's see this orange thing that is here. Do you know what is it named? It is the Golgi apparatus. Okay, these three things right here that look like candy are the mitochondria. And these things that are like all over the cell, these are the ribosomes. And finally, the greenish things that are also all around the cell are the lysosomes. So let's check if we are correct. And yes, as we can see, this is pointing to the nucleus, the endoplasmic reticulum, the cytoplasm, the lysosomes, the ribosomes, the mitochondria, and the Golgi apparatus. You can pause the video and try to make a diagram like this in your notebook to best understand the cell structure and to remind you in the exam. Finally, let's see a comparing chart, a Venn diagram about the prokaryotic cells and the eukaryotic cells. So first of all, the prokaryotic cells are a single-celled organism, while the eukaryotic cells are usually multi-celled. The prokaryotic cells have no nucleus or membrane-bound organelles. And in contrast, the eukaryotic cells does have a nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. The prokaryotic cells are smaller. They have 1 to 2 to 3 microns, while the eukaryotic cells have 10 to 100 microns. Some examples of the prokaryotic cells are bacteria and archaea. And the eukaryotic cells are like plants, animals, any living thing except bacteria and archaea. In the prokaryotic cells, the DNA is a closed loop in the cytoplasm, while in the eukaryotic cells, it is a double helix in a nuclear envelope. And finally, the prokaryotic cells have 70S ribosomes, while the eukaryotic cells have 80S ribosomes. Now, what do they have in common? They have in common the DNA plasma membrane. They both have a plasma membrane. They both have a cytoplasm and they both have ribosomes. So now let's continue with your teacher Derek, who is going to show you the activities of today's lesson.
Thank you, Carol, for that well presentation. So, now, guys, that you have learned a lot about eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells, let's make an activity, okay? In the section of files, you will find a document with a table. In this table, you are gonna complete what is missing inside of the boxes, okay? This table talks about the organelles from the eukaryotic cell. So you're gonna write or the name of the organelles that are missing or its characteristics, depending on what it is asked for you, okay? So you can pause the video, go to files in the section of this themes group, and we'll start your activity. I'll be here waiting for you to finish it. Okay, so now that you have paused the video and you're here again, let's continue with the second activity. The second activity is, well, obviously about prokaryotic cell. Okay, this is I think more, it will be more fun for you since, well, you're going to be using your hands, You're going to be using colors, and the artists who are in this group are going to enjoy this activity because, well, you're going to draw a prokaryotic cell. In a sheet of paper, you must draw the ultrastructure of this prokaryotic cell and also label the most important organelles of it. Remember, in this presentation, you saw 6 of these organelles, so you must write it down and, well, obviously draw an arrow to point at the organelle so that you can identify them. Okay? Again, pause the video, take some colors, some pencil, and obviously the paper, and start your activity.
Okay, guys, so we finished for today's lesson. Yay! Thank you so much for your attention. From teachers Carolina Cardona, me, Derek, Regina, Max, and Altai.
Remember that you can contact us anytime. Our phone numbers are in the group of teams. So, see you later, guys.
Bye!